Good morning to everybody. I hope you are able to hear me. If so, if you can't, please place a message in the chat in a way that I can be aware of the issue. Otherwise, I suppose that everything is working well. Let me see where the chat is. Chat, here it is. Okay. So let's start with the last seminar before summer here in Spain. As usual, we need to thank to the national funded project Digest for bringing us the opportunity to discuss about these topics. So the project is funded by the Agencia Estatal de Investigación, and then an action inside of it is to deliver some seminars, etc. Okay, so given the acknowledgement to the Spanish Agency for Research, let's move forward with the topics of today. So the main idea is to make a reflective analysis regarding how to translate, how to move, which is the path to smoothly move from the interviews or focus group or whatever, let's say, qualitative research instrument you have into a more quantitative or at least semi-quantitative approach. Semi-quantitative approach in order to understand what we can extract or what we can learn from that information. So the idea is somehow instrumental. Somehow instrumental, meaning that we will see some tools, etc. But the main idea for us is to figure out the, let's say, the meaning. To have a clear mind on what to obtain. So, meaning that some examples with code and with toolings are expected. So coding, by the way, coding here, it doesn't mean software coding. Is coding of the instrument you are dealing with. Okay, let's move forward with the general overview. Then let's focus on the general perspective. Oh, first of all, some words about me, which is basically the interest here is to show that I'm basically located here between industrial management and digital technologies, with some, as you see, some years on the shoulder, so a little bit elder somehow, but okay, still alive. So yeah, let's starting with the first point, which is to understand and to discuss the general overview and the path I want to propose you. The main idea is that, okay, I could start from written reports, in some cases, like surveys, etc., with open questions or not, or even worse in terms of voice and multi-voice. Then the idea is to craft that, let's say, soft style of information in a more reliable and capable of being analyzed information or data that we can further extract some conclusions. So the path mainly is the one I show you here, which is, first of all, I need to take the voice file or the video file or whatever, and to transcript into the text, and then extract the text with some annotation diaration, timing, and here we are focusing just on the transcript text, but could be also emotions, could be body language if we do have video recorded. So it depends on the sources you have. So then imagine here you have kind of array of components, not only based on text, but also in sentiment information or in gestual body language add-on that could be also integrated, right? In most of the cases, and this is because I crafted that image, we will rely on text alone. But don't forget that also it's possible to include other strands in there. Then, as I told you, having the text is not enough. We need to provide some structures on how, who is talking, and also what is talking about, and between how long the duration of the speech, of the sub-speech, of the sentence is. That will help us to build kind of a schema of the conversation. Inside that schema, we can have specific codes for specific topics of interest. We need to, let me call that annotate. Then when you come up with that, we can decide, and this is very important, although they are final parts of the path, should be somehow configured as making it clear from the very beginning. Because, for instance, if you don't need to get speaker identification, then the process is much easier. Or if you want to do just a classical PCA analysis with the terms of the codes you have, then, or you need to carry out a logistic regression, or you need to do kind of SEM analysis or model, that will be completely different. So this is important to figure out what are the, let's say, the journey you want to develop with your information, right? So then all of that will be living here in the advanced analytic frameworks. And then finally is the matter of reading what you got. Reading the limitation of the models, the capabilities of the models, etc., in terms of making possible to discuss the main sentence, the main assessment, in terms of that kind of secondary perspective, which is the quantitative one. Okay, for each of those steps, we will have different tooling, although we need to keep in mind some main points. One is related to the tooling themselves. Each tool has their own limitations and their own capabilities. So you need to be aware, depending on what you want to get, what are the most convenient ones. Second point is to provide kind of methodological approach to be consistent and then to get struggled with a huge amount of data into a pipe that in the end takes you to nowhere. So the best idea is probably to make a small sample, to run the analysis, to be convinced that, okay, this is what I want to have, and then to scale up to the whole data set. And then for the last part, for the integrative insights, let's say you need to be aware that a small sample will be always limited. So then you need to be consistent with the size of the sample you are dealing with in terms of number of answers or in terms of content per answer, both of them. And then the key aspect is to try to take evidence from the narrative storyline you have. So I recommend you the paper shown below, because probably that will help. Going deeply into the tooling, well, you can start from many different type of things. One should be Teams, for instance, or Zoom, or any other meeting software. Normally, in those cases, those softwares have the capability to export the audio file as well as the transcription in some cases, and with some limitation depending on the case. So, but don't hesitate that you can start also from a interview recorded in a mobile phone or recorded in a classical magneto from the historical, from the, let's say, heritage toolings. So, or then that could be microphone, USBs, or any other kind of thing. And then you can synchronize those files into cloud, into local files, etc. So that will be up to you. So then the main point at the end of the day for that first sub-step inside the stage 1 is that you will get in the end at least some audio or video files in your storage, either local or cloud, and with different type of outcome, just MP4 file, just MP3 file, just so WAV file, whatever one. And in the base case, you can get a transcription, and you can review the transcription and decide to what end the transcription was realistic. Keep in mind that those transcriptions are run over LLM models, and those models make the translation and also exchange some words regarding the coherence of the sentence. That means that in some cases you get in trouble because the audio doesn't record what the transcription shows. So it's up to you to decide to what end you trust or not. Indeed, if you do the transcription by yourself, so that should be the second sub-step inside the stage 1. In that particular case, it depending on the software you use, you can provide diarization of the conversation, so identification of who is speaking, but also in some cases probability that the identified word is correct, meaning that for very low probability the let's say reliability of the sentence need to be careful review. So then normally, for sure, there are other tools that I will not be covered here, that those like TranscriptMe or some other one, which are basically human-driven services, then they are much more expensive. So let's keep under the let's say the automatic tools easily available for each of us at minimum cost or no cost. Then after having that, you will get some kind of text file, doc file, JSON file, STT file, VTT files, depending on the type of expectation of thing you are looking for. You will get different type of, even several of them, as I will show you very soon. Then next, in the stage 1 should be the step number 3, or the sub-step number 3, which is trying to associate to the transcription with a specific coding. And this is very important because that will be critical depending on the analysis you want to do. But normally, the main idea for the structured coding will be to start from classes of codes like, for instance, innovation, research, whatever. There are meaning class of codes, and then inside the class you can set up codes themselves, like for instance, lab research, or survey, or specific, or even lower detail, depending on the type of analysis you want to do. But it could be either qualitative, quantitative, mixed. So depending on the code, so meaning words that describes specific items relevant to your research, to the research question you have. And then you can decide and to define subcodes, which are mainly categories inside of that. For instance, imagine you selected research and qualitative, but then you can establish kind of Likert scale to identify either very low qualitative to very high qualitative research. Meaning, so still the code is qualitative research, but you can get some different type of degrees depending on the answer itself. For instance, if the people are talking about they hate to speak for a long time, then the coding probably should be qualitative research, but a scale of 2 or something like that, not 5, right? So that means the idea, so you need to prepare that kind of categories, codes, and subcodes at the very beginning, because the idea for you then is to associate the discussion held in the interview with that kind of labels, at least codes and subcodes. Even better, categories as well. Then that is the meaning for that third step, which is try to associate the discussion with those codes and subcodes. That can be done by specific tools, which are paging software like Atlas.ti or NVivo or MaxQData, or people call that CAQD software, or there are a free tool which is Qualcoder. I will show you very soon. Well, making possible that the outcome will be to associate those codes to the specific sentence. And then the first qualitative analysis that could be derived from here is mainly to identify which answer collects more codes from one category or one subcode or one level of subcodes inside one category or inside one topic, one code, etc. So that kind of analysis can help us to describe the, let's say, the high level of the interview you carried out. For sure, as no matter of the Atlas, NVivo, whatever tool, sorry, they have AI assistance, but it is very important that you provide the AI tool with the hierarchical coding and subcoding and categories coding and subcoding you want to have associated to the sentence, because otherwise it will try to be creative and then it will destroy your coding. In the end, yeah, it makes easy the association effort, but keep in mind that this is critical for the conclusion you will take out later on. Then at least manual revision is very, very important. Indeed, you need to be sure that the survey is conducted in a way that sarcasm is avoided. Because keep in mind that in that particular schema, except if you consider audio input, and then you associate the sentence with the level of sarcasm, for instance, or the hate or whatever, then you will just rely on what the sentence say itself. keeping out any kind of sentiment that could make completely wrong the interpretation of the sentence itself. So be careful with that. And then, well, you can establish on that kind of consistency analysis to check to what end one person, one survey is consistent in a way that the number, or basically this is mainly for multi-survey analysis, to check to what end there are some surveys, some interviews that were, let's say, behaving very, very differently from others. Then you need to either clustering them or analyze them. You can use kappa or alpha calibration techniques to identify the homogeneity of the sample itself. This is also something which is relevant. This is the integrated reliability test. Okay, then that will help us to move forward, explaining and allowing us to go into the details. Then, if you rely on basically digital tools like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Meet, WebEx, or other platforms, then you will be able to, depending on the tool, to take out different type of outcomes, like ext or Word files or VTT, which is richer format than those, or some, this is docs as well, and then this is text file as well. Then, depending on the tool you are at your hand, it will be richer or poorer the outcome you will get. If you want, although you use Teams or Zoom or whatever, you still can have access to the audio or the video with audio records. And in that case, you can extract that information for your own analysis to check consistency or to do whatever. This is the second workflow I placed for you here down in a way that could be considered alternative, complementary, or whatever, to be sure that the analysis carried out is consistent. In that case, you start from downloading the audio file, M4A, MP4, MP3, whatever format, and then you need to extract audio file from there by using, for instance, an open source tool, which is FFmpeg, which is able to extract single channel, multi-channel of audio storing from different sources and providing different type of output. For the reason of simplicity, I will stay on MP4 files, but could be any other one as well. Then you can use also FFmpeg to convert that to WAV file. And then the magic starts here. So you can use, for instance, Whisper, which is an OpenAI source code tool, making it possible to make the transcription with the quality of the LLM in the background. Then I downloaded it locally, but you can run it on the API if you have a paying subscription, etc. That will allow you to choose which model. Otherwise, the model is fixed. Then there is an extension of Whisper, which is Whisper X, which also make possible diarize and then identify who is speaking in the sentence. Then the outcome for that will be JSON file with the structure of the sentence, the timing, the speaker in case of diarizing, etc. So this is the let's say the starting point for the analysis we want to promote later on. Right? So I hope this is clear till here. Then next movement is showing you how to run. This is an example of a capture of a screenshot of an ffmpeg command, starting from the video file, asking for 16 kilohertz of quality of audio, exporting one channel, a single channel, and creating the imv01.wav file. Then it will do the job, and then we can be able to start from the WAV file if we want. Then you can see here the operation for Whisper, asking to use a language. That example is running in Spanish. Then I ask the language to run Spanish language and large model, and the task will be transcription alone. And the output format will be JSON in local file and with timing in the words, making possible, for instance, this allows me to cross-analyze with the sentiment and to detect with the timing alignment, which, let's say, which perturbed sentiment is associated to which word, which is helpful in some cases to distinguish the meaning, not only the whole sentence, but specific when the person make emphasis on a single word, right? Well, this is just an example for you to show, and then I wanted to show you the outcome to identify what you should expect. The first outcome in that particular case is the JSON file, which is you see here the whole test and an entry, but not only that, it also includes some sections related to the starting time, ending time, and the sentence itself, the tokens involved into the text. So how the LLM models decompose the sentence, and then the probability of this is a sentence, this is a speech. As you see, is very low because yes is not a sentence itself. Well, it could be, but only with 20% of the. This is because we started recording when the conversation was already there. And then so the model, the audio recorded the previous conversation, let's say. Then the JSON file will go through the single word one by one, analyzing the timing, etc. Right? Then also, here's another example with tokenizing of this is for the understanding the LLM, how the tokens are not just the single words, but different things. And also, then the analysis of the single word, as you see, with the probability of being part of a sentence. And then if it is very low, very low, meaning 0.0 whatever, then you suspect that the translation was not good, right? Okay, that is just an example to show you the different type of outcome you will get, or the components you will get inside the JSON file. Not only the transcription, the translation, but also some richness, some additional richness in the text itself. Okay, what if you want to use some diarization component? In that particular case, we are forced to use Whisper X, which is Whisper plus some additional model to identify sound profile, clustering the profile of the voice, which is done then I can't start from the WAV. I need to start from the MP4 file. I need to use CUDA, so the graphical card. And then I need to use, because the clustering of the voices are done in through Hugging Face. Then I need to provide a token. Is freely available from Hugging Face, but then you need to provide it to WhisperX to do the job. And I didn't establish any kind of output, then I will expect the best from the model in doing the job. Then you see here how it starts using torch and other kind of things, and then it starts to provide transcription below, as you see. It's exactly the same file than before. And then the transcription goes in the same way. Then now the files are much more interesting, are the input file, which is the MP4 one. Of course, the JSON file as well, but then some other files like ASRT, TSV, the TXT file, and the VTT files appears as well, right? Then let's have a look on what you can expect from them. You can see, as you see, here the diarization show who speaker was speaking. You see? Then it's not only starting and ending, it's the sentence as well, but also the words and who in the word, because it is possible for the model to identify different voices inside the same sentence, like a choral approach. This is for the JSON file. If you start with the SRT, there here you get the speaker, the whole sentence, not the word by word, and the timing, which is somehow interesting as well, right? Then the TSV is a different format. This is not a speaker annotation here. This is only starting and ending time and the text. In the text file, as it was diarized, so the speaker is here and the text. So it's kind of JSON file combines those and also make an analysis word by word. And then the VTT file is a combination like the SRT before, with different format of the sentences, with timing and with the speaker, right? Well, then the structure is, as I show you here, Whisper, the steps with diarization. Output request is kind of cleaning the transcription by a speaker and timestamping. Then when we get that point, which is exactly where we are now, we need to face the next step. And the next step is to start doing the job, which is coding. And then I suggest to use qualcoder. I will show you some of them. And then establish the codebook, which is what I told you before you need to have, the hierarchical categories, code, and subcodes you need to have. And then you need to provide the coding exercise, either helped by AI or by hand, or helped with AI and reviewed by hand. And then that kind of coding need to be stored in the end, and then need to be thematically analyzed somehow to identify the components you want to have, depending on the type of analysis you will want to have. So here you see, this is atlas.ti. Then here you see the coded made by AI, which is basically random. You see many number of codes because it was done without any additional suggestion. On the other side, I did a manual coding. Then the number of codes you see appearing are much intensive. then of course you can do the tool has the capability to show you the Atlas tool has the capability to make possible to identify which components, etc. I was marking paragraphs to make things the analysis easy, but could be related to a single sentence, a word, whatever. So especially it's important when you do coding and subcoding, right? Well, then you can export the information carried out. This is the atlas.py exporting of the information related to what was exported, from which source, and what were the, let's say, the main codes associated to that component here, right? Then you can export the text, as I told you, with the VTT, for instance, or the text file. Then this is another example for health analysis. And then here you can get the text, and then who was the person speaking, let's say. This was done by using Microsoft Teams, by the way. And then the annotation was carried out by us. Okay, this is Qualcoder. Qualcoder is a free tool. Then has a user interface. I'm running it in the same machine that I had the tooling. So this is because you get here the name of the machine, the Linux machine, but still is able to show the let's say the graphical user interface. Then you see I started from the text file, because for the coding, I'm not interested in which speaker that will become later in case of. So it depends on the interest of what I'm interested in doing. So then I use the categories and then the codes. For instance, digital product passport is the category, and then barriers, benefits, roles, values, and visions. Then I forget to create here the subcategories, which should be which levels in the barriers or in the benefits or in the role need to have. Then I remain just coding by the different type of strategies. So those are related to the problem, for instance, etc. And then for sure you can have some AI chat. Here I need to make a comment related to the problems with using the generic LLMs from the open platforms. Here the usage of the AI chat is based on APIs, and then you need to have the API provided by your tenant or your software or service provider. Keep in mind that if you do that and you are not in a restricted environment, you will put all the material in the hands of the remote LLM, which for sure will collect all the data you share with it. Be aware of that in terms of claiming later on in the paper that the material, the interviews or whatever were not handled by an LLM or whatever, because they were, right? So be aware of that. The only way to skip that is to confine the LLM inside your own hardware and provide the connection from the API to that particular through Open Web UI or through Llama or through whatever other technology to a confined LLM. In that case, your data will be at safe. Otherwise, there is no promise. Neither in the case of the provider assures you that you are in a restricted environment. In some cases, corporations pay an additional fee to be protected, but There are plenty of examples of leaking information from those environments as well. In some cases due to national security reasons, in some other cases because of different type of things. So be careful, at least in the disclaimer you put in the paper you prepare based on that, right? Well, then you can extract and export the coding, code by code, etc. Right? Then you can get the category of the code itself, the person speaking, the timing, and the text itself was marked in that way. Then, depending on what you want to do and the different interviews you have, you can start making a statistical analysis depending on those codes based on the number of, let's say, sentences or duration or both you get from the different type of interviews. So that will be a first type of analysis you can carry out based on that technology, right? Which is the most common one for the semi-quantitative analysis, at least the initial one, let's say, for the coding is the first layer of implementation of coding. Then what if you want to do something else? Imagine you have a JSON file very rich in terms of probability, in terms of timing, in terms of timing of a speaker who was speaking that word. Then if you have body language, audio sentiment, or whatever, you can cross-correlate and go in deeply and to provide an enriched, let's say, JSON file to further running the analysis later on. I provide you just an example of a Python 3 columns of Python code able to enrich a little bit the information collected by the thing. In that particular case, I wanted to get some kind of structure like this one in a way that I can provide it to LLM to do whatever thing I want to carry out, or to label itself the material. Imagine I want to do an assisted AI coding, right? So then that will be the enriched coded in case of you didn't want to run the WhisperX solution, or you don't have the right tool or whatever. Then you see here the enriched sentence, confidence, memo, depending on the confidence, etc., that you get with the code and the subcode embedded into the, because keep in mind that the Whisper produces you the speaker, the timing, and the sentence, but not the category code and subcode. That need to be integrated from the coding analysis we did before with the qualcoder tool, right? Okay, what if you want to do a classical natural language processing approach? Just making a clustering of the sentence of the, sorry, or not sentences, of the nouns or adjectives found in the interview or in the set of interviews, right? And then try to identify who is talking about what mainly, what are the main concerns, whatever. This was the pre-LLM technology available at that time. I just want to show you Airamutech, which is a French tool of running over R with Python embed, making possible to do, as you see here, R and Python are the tools. And then I need to make it clear, is pre-LLM technology. right? Still, the text is embedded into the tool, and then the analysis of the segments, of the sentences, of the lemmatization of components, etc., and the clusters are carried out, right? So this is very easy and very graphical-oriented tool to be employed. Then you see here, you can ask for the different type of clusters, understanding which are the main words belonging to each of the clusters. As you see, they are lemmas for the wording inside the component. For sure, you can ask for a PCA. Well, this is a factor analysis graph, but it's the same as the opposite, the dual of the PCA, showing where the main words, the main components by frequency of the different clusters fit into the factors, the main factors related to the analysis carried out. Then you can imagine that those guys belonging to that cluster are related to more or less life, condition of life, etc. Those are much more related to treatment information, etc. Those are much more related to caring, to doctors, to time of the consultation, etc. Then you can start also analyzing either inside the interview or through different interviews the behavior of the different type of clusters there, and the coherence or the coherence of the components. For sure, the word clouds, etc., are also involved. Then, what if you want to do the work in the post, let's say, LLM approach? As I told you, you can work with different type of interviews, and then work with the type of codes, subcodes, and make a classical PCA based on the numbers. So this is a frequency analysis on and disposition of the different topics, though each of the labels belongs a point, and then you can color them based on the type of code, for instance. In that particular case, you need to be aware that it also informs you about the amount of variance. For the total variance explained is 34%, so it's very limited. So conclusion need to be taken with care. Then you can do you can for sure use a nonlinear projection, which is much more realistic, let's say, because distance between the components are closer to the reality in dimension 40, but then here there is no variance explanation, let's say, right? Or I can do, let's say, based on my coding I did, an AI semantic clustering with an LLM, in my case a confined LLM. And then I asked for a cluster plot using Manhattan distance with 6 clusters, and then I can see some boundaries for the blues or for the greens or for the pinks in different places, meaning which of them means what. So for you, it's up to you to decide. This is for a single, I need to say that this was carried out for a single interview. Then I can do it with several of them, and through longitudinally through all of them to check integrity, right? Then what else? Then the quantitative world opens here. Then you can start creating explanation models, like logistic regression models, based on the frequency of the coding or subcoding, or a combination of both, and the variable you want to explain. For instance, the digital product passport value related to the transparency and traceability and security, for instance. To what end those concepts are related to. How we can explain a model talking about the same thing. Either for the single interview or for, normally, in that particular case, is the most value approach is for the multi interview, let's say. Or some other cases. This is up to you to decide what to put on the left side and what to put on the right side as the explanation variables. In that particular case, codes or subcodes, meaning frequency or combination of them according to the law you want to discuss later or to justify later in your paper, right? But then you come up with a strong evidence, if the model supports the approach for sure, strong evidence of that, look, explaining value is possible because transparency plus traceability plus security work in 90% or 80% or whatever thing. Those are the key aspects to be considered. It's not because I heard the conversations or in the interviews, etc., but also because I'm able to code and to show that in a replicable way. Then, second approach is to use, okay, I'm not interested in providing myself, because sometimes it's hard and tricky. I'm not able to derive the relationship like digital product password is related to transparency, explainability, and security. Maybe there are other factors, maybe it's not so clear. So what I can do is to use association rules, which is to put together components that I believe, or because of the frequency or because of the reproduction through the different interviews, appears in the same paragraphs or in the same part of the interview. And then I will ask the a priori algorithm to look for some relationships that have a specific level of support, specific level of confidence, and specific lift. Meaning, to what end, when what I'm looking for appears in the same sentence that the dependent variables. And to what end that is normally appears when those also appear, either in a single way or multiple way. Or then what is the confidence that the rule is strong enough and not just circumstantial. So for you to be clear, support, meaning that strong level of support is kind of well-known things. Everybody knows when the support is, because it's something which is very frequent, and then people normally are aware of that. Then what is really valuable is support very low and confidence very high. Meaning, remember that confidence runs between 0 and 1. So things like this, meaning that okay, this is something which is relevant. Then it's matter to understand if these are things that we already know. Is the data governance related to regulation barriers and interoperability? Well, it's something that I can assess, but in the different interviews, this is something that came up. It's not only my feeling, so it's logic, but it's also supported by a number of speakers or interviews, right? Then this is mainly to explain what else, if you are not able to derive by yourself the regression model, what else to do. At least it starts to help you to create kind of soft model or relationships between things. Then, last but not least, create the structural equation models, which are able to be a little bit more flexible than the regression models themselves, because they allows you to create latent variables, so variables which are not directly related to the coding you have, but that some combination of codes can be defined as that latent variables, either for the explanatory variables or for the dependent variables, for both. Indeed, you can also integrate mediation variables and moderation variables as well. So normally variables comes from coding, so it's part of the coding or subcodes you already did, and then it starts you to create kind of hypotheses like those presented here below. Okay, I believe that regulatory intensity increases perceived data governance complexity. As you see, this is a much more elaborated sentence that probably nobody came up with that kind of thing. So you need to create variables, latent variables, which are, for instance, data governance complexity. What does it mean? I don't have that code. So, but private data governance, interoperability, and digital product passport platforms and cost barriers could be something related to complexity in data governance, for instance. Then I can associate those variables to the latent variable complexity data governance, etc. Then you can start assessing that kind of models. And for sure, the explaining SEM is a little bit more complex than my idea is to show you how you can connect with the SEM analysis by starting with coding data, etc. Right? Then you come down to the encoding data, encoding and sub-encoding. Then you can build up with the latent and the SEM with a small Python code the preparation of the model. For sure, the hypothesis needs to be carried out by you, and then the idea for the SEM structures need to be also crafted by you. But the hard work, which is working on the preparation of the data, is mainly done, and then you only need to be concentrated on the last part of the game, which is the SEM building. And also you can delegate it if you explain the concept and the hypothesis to an assistant, a copilot or something like that, helping you to do the job. Then the main insight I want to highlight is that the quantitative techniques could be a good complementary tool for the analysis you want to do in the, let's say, qualitative analysis, especially if you have significant amount of interviews or whatever. If you only have 2 or 3, then the amount of, so the capabilities are much limited. Then for sure, different type of approaches, classical clustering or PCA or whatever, hierarchical clustering, regression models, association rules, SEM models, etc. Then that are the tools that will allow you to support strongly and with more evidence and more, let's say, robustness, the analysis you can derive, because in the end, the qualitative analysis needs to be done, and the conclusions and the ideas, actually, in the SEM, so those hypotheses come from the analysis, the qualitative analysis you want to demonstrate, basically, right? And well, this is all from my side today. If you have questions, feel free to unmute and to speak. Let me stop the recording.